Hi, I'm Esther Lynn from MMAfighting.com, and here are some of my favorite images from UFC 156. We kicked off our fight week by interviewing a few fighters on their Super Bowl knowledge. After each fighter interviewed, I tried to snap a quick portrait. Fighters always ask, "What should I do?" I always tell them, "However you feel." Jose Aldo smiles, Benavidez made a series of faces, and Isaac Valley Flag, excited for his UFC debut, grinned. I love the perspective in this picture. Dana White isn't a small man, but these heavyweights, at this angle, dwarf him. Overeem and Silva had such an intense face-off, and White seems to smile nervously at Overeem, as if to ask him not to fan the flames just yet. Even after separating, Silva's fists are still clenched. Many of the weigh-in face-offs were intense, but this is the moment. As Aldo and Edgar shake hands, their stare unbroken, both looking through the soul of their opponents, searching for weaknesses. Look at their arms. Aldo's forearm muscles are tensed, their grips firm. This is the first exchange of their fight the next night. As the official photographer of the now shuttered Strikeforce, it brought me joy to see the Strikeforce fighters making their UFC debuts succeeding. Bobby Green always does this when he wins, and I was waiting. For years, Green was on untelevised undercards, toiling for recognition of his skill. It was thrilling to watch Green finally make it to the big stage and shine so brightly. To punctuate the momentum of Strikeforce fighters succeeding in their octagon debuts, Woodley launched this overhand right with such force at Jay Heron, Heron's face ripples back around Woodley's fist. As the fight began, I was about to tell the photographer next to me how Woodley had a bad rap as a boring wrestler, but everyone underestimated his hands. Well, 30 seconds in, Woodley told his own story loudly. Ian McCall breaks down after suffering another defeat in the UFC. While I'm sure McCall didn't think he won the 3-round battle with Benavidez, he had to be crushed at being one of the best fighters, at one time not so long ago the #1 flyweight, still without a win inside the octagon after so many close contests. Alistair Overeem exudes such a grand persona. The spotlight squarely on Overeem as he walks toward the cage. He's confident and ready to move past this fight and look towards the heavyweight title. But Antonio Silva would not be Overeem's stepping stone. Refusing to be disrespected as a warm-up fight, Silva bided his time through 2 rounds with Overeem to come back and execute his game plan violently. Bigfoot Silva's emotions overflowed as he ran back toward the barely conscious Overeem to demand he get up and continue fighting. I love Herb Dean's heel digging into the canvas as he tries to pull back 280 pounds of vindicated fury. And in stark contrast to his entrance, Alistair Overeem's exit from the floor, the arena around him and spotlight once made him a giant, but here, as he looks up at the replay, diminished, childlike. If fighters leave the cage after they lose a decision, they tend to look down, as Rashad Evans did, walking swiftly away from their defeat. But fighters who are knocked out almost always look up, hypnotized by the giant moving images of their demise. Frankie Edgar, ever fierce and resilient in late rounds. If championship fights went 7 rounds, he'd probably still be the lightweight champ. Here's Edgar, making a resurgence in the 4th round after suffering crushing leg kicks and eating many strikes on his now bloody face. Aldo's counterpunch lands so hard the muscle on Edgar's opposite cheek is rippling. Even so, Frankie Edgar moves forward. He always fights to win and doesn't quit even when the scorecards are stacked against him. Frankie Edgar pushes harder as the clock winds down, toughens when most others would crumble. As the officials signaled 10 seconds remaining with their clapboards, I switched lenses hoping to grab a wide shot of the final action. I didn't expect Aldo to use the cage to propel a last Superman punch, but I'm so glad I was ready. Here you can see the movement from beginning to end, finishing with Aldo landing on Edgar after flying through the air. I would suspect it was this moment that made Anthony Pettis want to challenge Jose Aldo. Here, Aldo reminds us why he is such a great champion and a dazzling fighter. For a few seconds, when no one was asking Jose Aldo questions at the press conference, you could see him work through the fight in his head. Aldo even moved his shoulders a little, fainting in his seat on the dais, perhaps trying to figure out how people thought Edgar had won, or already dissecting his performance. Frankie Edgar listens as the media ask him questions, how he fell short once again, whether he thought he'd won or lost, what next. What is next for Frankie Edgar? Such a stellar, talented fighter who has spent the last few years in championship defenses and rematches, now facing 3 close losses in a row, but sitting here, listening to the media ask him the same questions he's already asked himself. The answer's not coming in any clearer, even as they're repeated out loud. This is Esther Lynn for MMAfighting.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in Anaheim.